as energy efficient when they're not. In the past 7 years, state and territory governments have progressively introduced a system of green ratings that are now in force across the country. But according to academics and some in the building industry, the star ratings can be deeply misleading, with wide variations in their results and loopholes in their use. Matt Peacock investigates.
This newly built home was sold as 5-star energy rated, with a price tag to match. But its energy rating is now being put to the test. Here, a specialist team is measuring ventilation inside the house to calculate how much leakage there might be.
15, yep.
Either of hot air during winter or air-conditioned cool air during the summer.
The typical leakage areas or problems that we find in the houses are in the ceiling area. Mostly, I would say, downlights and exhaust fans are a major problem.
But along with more than 100,000 new homes built every year, the compulsory Australian energy rating on this house may not be worth the paper it's written on.
It worries me that householders are potentially expending a considerable amount of money with no effect.
I feel like I've spent all this money, and for what?
Jackie Sutty thought when she bought her new home in Melbourne, its high energy rating would save her money.
I thought 5-star meant it was going to improve my power bill, cooling wasn't going to be an issue, heating it wasn't going to be an issue, and they promoted 5-star through looking at all the display homes. So you would assume that it's fabulous, but turns out it's not really.
The results are in.
In fact, it was anything but fabulous, as her test results have now revealed.
So what star rating does it come out at?
Well, the star rating, on your original plans you had a 5-star rating. Yep. According to our figures, the actual house performs as a 3.5 star. So you're losing one and a half star in this process.
Well, we don't know that they work, and that's the issue, that there is no evidence around to show that they actually do work.
The problem with energy ratings, according to Adelaide University's Professor Terry Williamson, is that there's been no research to prove they're accurate.
There could be a serious resource misallocation going on. Within the total building industry in Australia, compliance is probably worth $4 to $6 billion a year. That's quite a lot of money if we were wasting it.
In 2004, a minimum of 3 to 4 star ratings became compulsory for all new homes across the country. 6 years later, the mandatory rating has now been raised to a minimum of 5 stars virtually everywhere. Victoria, Queensland, South Australia and the ACT have already moved to a 6-star rating, with Western Australia following next year. Whereabouts you live can dramatically affect your energy consumption.
Around Australia, heating and cooling is a different percentage of total household energy use. For example, in Tasmania, Victoria and ACT, heating and cooling is 60% of total energy in the home, whereas in Queensland, it's 15%.
In most homes, warns adjunct Professor Monica Oliphant, something like a solar hot water heater can significantly reduce energy use. So too can people's individual behaviour.
Behaviour can have one of the largest impacts. For example, people have quite an efficient heater, but like to have it full blast in winter and go around with T-shirts on. Or they don't bother to turn off all the things that are on standby, like computers and videos and so on.
Where home heating or cooling is used, the key to energy efficiency is to plug air leaks.
The solution with a manhole like this is just basically a weather strip around it, lower the manhole cover back in its frame, and the problem is solved.
Okay, is that expensive?
This particular solution is very cheap.
Home ratings are determined by feeding design data into one of 3 government-approved software programs. But even these have problems.
If you run the same building through 3 different programs, you get, at sometimes, significantly different answers. and we would need to find out why that is.
There's 1.5 million odd people to date, or home buyers, who've been subject to this faulty software. So in fact, they've been charged for something they're not getting.
All governments, state, territory, federal, Liberal, Labor, are to blame for the mess, believes Kevin Herbert of the cellulose insulation manufacturers.
Normal Australian people and families on the average incomes, the kind of savings you're going to get annually for an energy efficient house are substantial. They're into the thousands of dollars if the house is done properly. And people have to be educated how to use it. To date, it's all been window dressing, trying to keep up with this big environmental pressure to do something.
The federal government has just belatedly acted on a Productivity Commission recommendation to conduct a study on the accuracy of the ratings.
They made a recommendation in August 2005 that the government immediately introduce a research project to compare the ratings with actual energy use, not simulated energy use, as they said. Now, it's only last month that the government finally announced a tender for a project to do that.
Oh, it's all a bit after the event, and you know, given that they won't report on their findings until the end of next year, that's 2012, that means another 300,000 homes are going to be rated using this software, plus all the extensions that are done now have to be rated.
Kevin Herbert, though, believes there's a simple solution.
The answer is to make the builders responsible, legally responsible, for delivering a house that has a test certificate done by the builder to the consumer saying this house is energy efficient.
Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of homeowners like Jackie Sutty are left waiting and wondering.
I feel very cheated in the price that I've paid and for what we've received.